Danger signal. Note of warning. Trap door, trap for the unwary. Prophylaxis. Protective, preventive, conservative, preservative, prophylactic. Well preserved. Inexpertness, inexpertise, gaucherie, greenness, frustration. Hopes unrealised. I think this book's trying to tell me something. Take aback, stagger, stun, take one's breath away, knock one down with a feather. Clever. I'll get it all out of you. You're my inspiration, all my sweet desire. From the first impression, you set my nerves on fire. I'm telling you I love you. What else can I say? 'Cause you're my inspiration in every single way. I've got enough to live on. I've got a flat now, which is the first flat I've ever had. I'm 40. I can work here. I can feel involved with my work. I feel very happy. Much happier than I've ever felt since New Boots and Panties was made. When I made New Boots and Panties, I was a very happy geezer. Until I was 36, I didn't have any psychological problems that I could think of. I didn't have any hang-ups. I didn't worry about who I was or what I was. I felt like I was a dirty little pig, and I was quite happy to be there.
Noah, darling.
You're my inspiration. I love you.
Stop it, Tex.
Then I stopped being that. I started being required to be, not Des O'Connor, but along those lines, a household name. People kept coming and say, you're a household name now, you know. I felt like a piece of Tupperware. I felt like I'd been ordinaried, like I'd become plastic. I almost can't believe it. How beautiful I feel. I love you with abandon that cannot be concealed. It's almost out of order. So beautiful with you. I'm going to do my utmost. Make it all stay cool. You're my inspiration. I wanted to do an album called The Dancing Durex, and I phoned up, because they used to call me that at school, and I phoned up the London Rubber Company, and I spoke to this nice geezer. I said, well, you know, he said, well, we don't want it to become a generic, do we? I said, I thought it already was a generic. I thought that's what a generic was, preventing you having babies, right? I didn't know what a generic was. He's going, no, but we don't want it to become... I said, no, but it is a generic, isn't it? He said, no. I said, what about, like that, Gossamers? And we were going to have a band called Ian Durex and the Rhythm Method, about, me and Dave Emerson, it's about 6 years ago. And the backing vocal girls were going to be called the Gossamers. I could just see the Gossamers over there. I could see them in a sort of a violet light. You're my inspiration. It is a bloody business.
Which informs thus to my eye. Now, o'er the one half world, nature seems dead.
T.S. Eliot said that the immature artist plagiarises.
After all the sorrows and problems.
And the mature artist steals. And one of these days, I'm going to grow up. In the deserts of Sudan and the gardens of Japan, from Milan to Yucatan, every woman's, every man. Hit me with your rhythm stick. Hit me. Je t'adore, ich liebe dich. Hit me. Hit me with your rhythm stick. Hit me slowly. Hit me quick. Hit me. Well, it hit me was a kind of high point, and I should have stopped then and gone away and had a good old think and try and got my spirit back, because my spirit was definitely on a wobbly, partly because I was very tired, and we all were, all the band were, but partly because it had seemed to get out of hand, you know, it seemed to be all about making bread and all about being famous. I didn't used to be like that. I really didn't have the bollocks to stop, so I didn't stop.
Hit me with your rhythm stick. Hit me, hit me. Das ist gut, say, fantastic. Hit me, hit me, hit me. Hit me with your rhythm stick. It's nice to be a lunatic. Hit me, hit me, hit me.
When Ian gets going with a rock and roll band, we're talking about 16 people all drawing £10,000 a year is £160,000 a year. Drawing £160,000 in a year net, you know, after your expenses, you're talking about doing a lot of work. I mean, talking record sales, you're talking about selling 320,000 albums after you've paid for the cost of making the album, which maybe cost you 30, 40, 50,000 pounds, depending on how fussy you are about it. And all the rest of it, you know. If you also then expect not to make any money on the road, you see the sort of pressures you're putting then on your records. You know, you've got all these mouths to feed on you. So you've got all these people putting their sort of vibe on you about, you know, oh Christ, I hope the record's good, you know, and, you know, when are we going on the road because I need to get paid, you know, and all this sort of thing coming on to the essentially very personal thing that Ian has, which is writing his songs. So I think there is inevitable conflict or a strain.
I asked Dave Edmonton, who runs Stiff Records, after 3 years of being on the road and being grasping and all that stuff, I said I should go around the bend. When that happens, he was going to be my manager at the time. I said, when that happens, will you be able to look after me? Will you be able to help me? Will you be any use to me when I crack up? And he said, no, I won't. I'll take you down the road to Blackhill, because the chances were that they could do that better. I knew what would happen. I knew that, you know, we're all unique, man. We can all feel our own uniqueness. If we wish to package our uniqueness, we take a risk with our souls. Those risks are real.
As the records stop selling as much, it's been hard because of the way Ian works, everything is so very personal. He's not a sort of person who just hires you and fires you. You know, people do see themselves as part of the family. And when the family starts going broke, it becomes very difficult. I think Ian has been under pressure to do things which have not necessarily been in his best interests in order to provide the flow of money to keep things going. And I think Ian has sort of gone along with that because he himself has enjoyed having the people in the office, the band, the Blockheads, all that thing going on all around him and all revolving around him was a thing which I think was obviously was a lot of fun.
Where'd you get that haircut, Marks and Spencer's?
No, I cut done it myself. Do it yourself.
Okay, well, so in other words, if back said...
I ain't done it for a while.
Ian has wound down his operation. I think he had very little time for actually doing any work because he spent all his time with industrial relations problems. He's very good at it, but the amount of energy and time he put into holding all that thing together was time that he didn't have for either being a human being or for, you know, writing or whatever.
All right, well, I'll try
They want me to do the centrefold.
Well, no, it's a write your own piece, so I thought you might be into it, you know, because you're into done a few the odd write your own piece.
I did a nudie centrefold, right? And what's the NSPCC? The regional...
Oh, now that's quite interesting.
Simon Bates a good geezer, isn't he?
Yeah. I've spoken to that geezer, Paul.
Yeah.
Sounds like a very nice geezer. What he wants to do is sort of like get a record together for the 100th-year anniversary of NSPCC. Unless you wanted to write something or something like that, you see. So that's sort of...
Put it all in the polio folio. He's a nice geezer, though, isn't he? His dad's a vicar. You know, he does his gig, I do mine. Basically. His gig is to try and keep me solvent or something, and protect me. You see, to be like me, you've got to be a bit of a selfish loony and not worry about things like night and day and not worry about right and wrong and so forth. And one's behaviour does make one ashamed quite often, so I try and keep away from those relationships where somebody's going to suffer because of my behaviour. And Peter, he's a very, very nice, very kind man, a very lovely man, and I love him to death. We don't always get on too well because his job is, in a way, to look after my weaknesses. He's managing me. He's managing the things I can't do for myself, isn't he? That's what a manager is.
Sex and drugs and rock and roll is all my brain and body need. Sex and drugs and rock and roll. Very good indeed. Keep your silly ways or throw them out the window. The wisdom of your ways. I've been there and I know lots of other ways. What a jolly bad show if all you ever do is business you don't like.
Black Hill spent 15 years on the verge of going skint, and for the first half of 1982, I was really ill. By the time I recovered, they had gone skint.
Sex and drugs and rock and roll is very good indeed.
I mean, everyone imagines that people like me really want to be popular and really want to be famous. But I don't. I don't like being popular and famous. I like being a lurker. I like being in the shade. I like being naughty. It's very difficult to go, like, put your fingers up to somebody. Johnny Rotten can do it, John Lydon. He'd go like that when people say hello to him in the street. I don't like doing that to people. I feel like doing that to people. But I've set out, I had a hit record, or a couple of hit records, and that removed my right to be rude to people. It removed my right to, in fact, it seemed like it was my duty. People come up to you and go, give us an autograph. I go, don't be silly. They go, give us an autograph, I bought your record. You go, oh, they can chin me if I don't give them an autograph, you know? They wouldn't chin me, but they get very irate. So then you feel it's your duty to do that, which it is in a way, and you've set out and you've done that. It's your fault, my fault. So I accept that it was my fault. It happens less now. I'm a far happier person, far more involved with my work. Oh, lovely love, sweetness, pure sweetness, you're the source of my heart's solace. You're the desire of desire of desire. Sometimes I can get really involved with just writing words. Somebody nicknamed them shopping lists, and I think that's a really sweet way of describing them. I find that's enough. It's just words that mean, each thing means something, it doesn't have to join up. I mean, it just goes, to be specific, you're terrific. To be precise, you're awfully nice. To be quite clear, I love you, dear. And that's a fact. To be exact, Winnie the Pooh is having a wank. Oh, what are you up to? Said Tommy the Tank. Peter the Rabbit, he's at it as well. And all the young pixies in Dingley Dell singing fuck off, Noddy, you stupid brat. Fuck off, Noddy, in your rotten hat. That's quite a good one. This one, we snooted our cocaine and we fucked with true disdain. And then we did both of those things again. I like writing how-to. Little articles, how to do that, right? Just, and you can say what you like, you know? How to avoid getting poisoned by cocaine. First is, like, cocaine is twice the price by weight of gold. And unlike the gold, which the chunky gold bracelet is still round your crocodile skin neck in the morning, right? But all your cut, it's gone, and you've just turned into a fascist overnight. So I really hate cocaine. If it was £4 a pound down at Sainsbury's, that'd be different, do you know what I mean? Then we'd probably go, oh, I think I'll have some... No, I'll leave it, do you know what I mean? But... Here's one called The Reporter. I'm here to find out what makes you tick. I'm here to discover the secret you. I want to reveal that you're crooked and sick in such a way that it makes you spew. Because I'm Byline Brown from the National Dailies. And this is how I earn my wages. After 14 pints and a bottle of Baileys, I will spread your guts across the centre pages. Like that. Have some of that. And, you know, I haven't actually met any of them, do you know what I mean? But I'm sure they exist. I do know. I've never done an interview with any of those. You're the weapon in my settee. I started writing this play, but I couldn't get any front money for it. So I stopped. I didn't really do it for front money. God, I'm getting such a tiz was here. Vera Gardner was a calendar queen from her early teens till she was 28. She had a silicone chip on each shoulder and her pulses kept a normal rate. Vera Gardner, calendar queen. She was free of sin and free of fools and studied French and German at the evening school. So then, as her body posed for its unknown dreams, she did the business for them quiet screams in her thick mascara and her facial creams and her fishnet stockings with the crinkly seams. So those words are eames and jeems. It's really the eames. It doesn't matter what you can even hear it, really. We set the scene, then it goes, Vera Gardner, calendar queen. Yeah, like that. Then, music, like maybe a harp or something. Her thoughts did come to save her life. That's just like a bracket, you know, in parentheses. Some old boy in Bethnal Green will be having a wank with a magazine, which might warm him up enough to prevent him catching hypothermia. And suddenly, she's become Florence Nightingale, calendar queen. And it's not necessary to go any further than that, that's it. And it goes out of time at the moment. I'll probably leave it like that. Goes out of every thought of a groove and goes into a whew, like that. Wow. That's a year's work there. And if I'm lucky, maybe 6 or 7 songs will come out of it. It's quite a lot there. But it's on the principle that the more you write, the more likely you are to get a few out. Russell learned to play piano by teaching himself a long time ago. And I think it was Delacroix, who was a French painter, who said inspiration is getting to our studies at 9 a.m. And Russell finds it more productive to actually act as if he's going to work, like 9 to 5. It's like, you remember the Brill Building, Carole King and all that in New York. Well, they went in there during the day and they worked during the day like a proper job. Writing. Now, I don't work like that. I work all kinds of hours when I feel like it, really. And Russell goes in there and applies himself to it. It's 8 hours a day. And that's how we started doing it. He wrote a B-side of our only hit single, which was called Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick. There and I've been some clever bastards. And he's a good writer. So he's a very melodic writer. And, I mean, I've always really worked with him. I've never really stopped working with Russell. And we still work. We've known each other a long time. Good geezer, Russell. I don't play drums as a drummer would play the drums at all, because I'm not a drummer. I play drums for writing lyrics with, so I know what the tempo should be. Every lyric has an absolutely exact and precise tempo, without which you can't deliver it. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6. With a melodic piece of music, the kind that Russell writes, he's not primarily looking for a groove. He's looking for a melodic chord sequence, and with a melody line on top, and perhaps the groove or the rhythmical flow, the pattern, or what they call riffs, which would be dum, ba-dum, dum, dum. That's a riff, right? The riffing would not even perhaps come into his head, maybe not until right at the very end, and perhaps not ever at all. And the more chords you've got in a piece of music, the more difficult it is to find a riff that will run through it, a bass line riff or whatever, that will go all the way through it and give it a rhythmical dancing flow. So what one would do with Russell's stuff is get an arranger on it afterwards. Davey Payne, who plays the saxophone with the Blockheads and used to play in the Kilburns, phoned me up and said, listen, I want to bring this guy around to meet you. And it was a day after my 40th birthday, and they came round. And I said, hello, you're very young, ain't you? She said, no, well, you know, you've got to work with the young ones, ain't you, mate, like that. And he really laid it on me that it was, he was very keen, and I was, you know, looking for inspiration, I think. And Michael had bucketfuls of the stuff. When I'm getting jaded, he's fresh. And he gives me a kind of, you know, Uncle Ian a bit, but that's all right. It makes me feel like I know something occasionally.
I didn't come here to make amends. I only came here to make a friend and make it well what I intend. I don't feel obliged to make pretend. I only came here to make a friend. I know that we'd all go round the bend without any friends. Friends are something special. Friends are all we need. Friends with one another. Friend in need is always a friend in.
See, you dropped that like, got a lyric problem there, Chris. Dropping in after so important.
Friends are so important. I like your friendship very much indeed. Indeed.
My tongue just came out and went like that. God blimey.
Friends are so important. I want
I see Michael as my working partner. He does music and I do words. But I do music and he does words as well. It's very overlapping. I need his nod to show me where I am sometimes because I can't figure out how they're playing what they're playing quite a lot of the time. I like your friendship very much indeed. Oh, poo. Indeed, indeed.
You know, like the first three notes. Do, 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 do. It's the second one. Dun. That's the last one you want. You end up. Yeah. Dun. Yeah.
Can't even hear that.
That's the first three notes. That's
Dong dong. Most of the songs I write for me, but Dave Robinson originally asked me to write a song for George Cole. He had George Cole in mind, who's a great actor. I had a lot of trouble kind of relating to it because I was trying to pretend I was George Cole.
Friends are more than precious friends. I guarantee friends with one another. A friend in need to be a friend indeed.
Right. It works great in the chorus when it just kind of steps up to the chorus. That boom, 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 boom. Real brass band land.
Yeah.
It would sound like Salvation Army on a Sunday. Friend.
So, I mean, I'll record it if he don't want it, because it's a...
Well, the thing with George is he hears them, and he makes up his mind. You know what I mean? I just said, you know, I know a lot of people in Dury, etc., who I think could write a really good song that you'd like, and that you could, you know, would be a bit more than just, you know, hamming up a couple of oldies. He's a great idea.
class.
Good class.
Classy person.
Absolutely.
Well, I've got a small problem. That's the only song I've got that I think is a single, so...
Well, if I can get a cassette, I'll pop it over to him Monday or Tuesday.
I'll get a cassette over to you on Monday.
All right.
And see, you know, if he wants it, he can have it. I never actually posted the cassette to Dave because I really like the tune and I rewrote the lyric in a way that I thought I could sing it.
When Freddie Frost was in my song and Tommy Tear was in my eye, Philippa Friendship took my hand, said, baby, don't cry. When Tessie Trouble's on patrol and Susie Sadness makes you blue, let Lenny Love come to your door and pal up with you. Friends are something special. Friends are all we need. Friends with one another. I like you very much indeed.
Fuck that. somebody fragile like myself needs to be sort of left alone in a pool, you know. So I don't really go to a public pool anyway, like whether or not I would be recognised and splashed more because of it. So I come down here, that was about two and a bit years ago. I rang the bell, and this lovely little lady came out. Oh, she's so tiny. I said, oh, how long have you had polio? I said, well, 30 years. And she said, well, get in the pool, we'll soon sort you out, like that. So, that was Dr. Kit. Dr. Kit would just stand with her arms folded, leaning back against the wall, like watching me as I was swimming against the tide. And she would just stand like that, with a smile, like a beatific, I suppose, her smile was very wise, also very vibey. And I'd look at her all like, sheepish like that, and she would just go, like that, this big smile, Gioconda. And, I mean, I'd never been in love, well, I've been in love before with an old person, but I was right spark about her. She was really terrific. Such a cheerful person, such a positive, naughty, wicked, terrific person. She said, yes, dear, I was an atheist since I was 4, dear, I've been a Marxist since I was 5. Oh, yeah, I'll be swimming away, like, listening to all the gear, you know. Ooh, and if, like, I didn't undo my leg when I was sitting down after a bit of a swim, I would go out there and have a cup of coffee. Undo it! Oh, like that, all the things you're supposed to do. Lose that hand. I think people like Dr. Kit, they don't get lauded and they don't get put up in, you know, headlines, but they, in fact, probably create more good than all the publicity seeking under the sun will create. I think that she's probably the most totally beautiful person I've ever met. And I think it was about 4 months I used to come down here every day, and it was the night before her birthday. And she gave me loads of information that day, and there was a party for her the next day. And we made a record, and that was like, one of the track on the B-side of the track was for her, and I usually play through these speakers, all the demos and things, and I didn't play nothing of that, because I wanted to save it for her birthday. And Horny came around here, our sound engineer, and when he found out she died that night, and Fred come and told me. She died the eve of her birthday party.
While these minutes of no good bloody slowly drip away, it's you that comes to help him now. That's not all he wants to say. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, tries to keep himself in shape, washed and clean and acting cool, lonely as a homeless fish, swimming in an empty pool, never wants to let you down, trying hard for fighting fit, patient as the day allows, calls you his survival kit. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, 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 and tomorrow, tomorrow. It's actually me, embarrassed by this wet bouquet. I love you till the cows come
This geezer was polio, 4 years out of me, so probably 1953. He sent me this book. It's his book of poems. I don't think it's his only book of poems. And, well, he explains it in here. He wrote this thing in here. Dear Ian, please turn to page 12 and see what it does. And he makes for... I got polio when I was 7. Well, Paul and me both got polio when we were 7. And he got his at his grandma's. I got polio when I was at my grandma's in Cornwall. That's where it came out, like. I think I got it in Southend about 3 weeks before, and it had an incubation period. I went to Chailey about 4 years after you, so I never met the guy. But he went to the same school that I went to. Chailey's in Sussex. We eat shepherd's pie on the journey to Sussex. Even then, I couldn't really believe that they would leave me. This school is a special school where there are children like you. To me, there was no difference between normal children and the crippled ones. They were all children. When we arrived, I knew that they would go and that I would remain behind. I was fitted out with short trousers and heavy studded boots that made my legs feel weak. We didn't have coats, but were given cloaks and striped shirts. On Sunday, we were given Harris tweed jackets and grey flannels. He's not going to be very warm in these, said my mother to my father, who made jokes to make me feel better. I watched him drive away. I cried because that was the only expression I had. I wanted to blame them for leaving me, but I knew how much it hurt them. I could see the pain in their eyes. I was bullied and beaten up from time to time. I wasn't used to violence. In this place, it was the law of the jungle. Kill or be killed. I died many times, but I got used to dying. I remember a big boy who used to spit full in my face whenever he saw me. He'd wait round corners, then jump out at me. There was nothing I could do about it. He was much faster than I. He was eventually expelled from the school for excessive violence. He was a cripple. I remember being held down with metal chairs whilst my legs were stung with stinging nettles. I still stared at the empty driveway, waiting for that familiar car, carrying my mummy and daddy. I soon learned to say mum and dad, because mummy and daddy was posh talk, yeah, I mean, blush. Like that, if you said mummy. I escaped from there 3 times with my mate Lawrence, but they pick you up down the road and send you back. The grocer and that said, oh, from Jailey, he's got to go back, like that. We used to go over the gorse bushes. It was good. I'm really glad I went there. It sounds very heavy. But in fact, it was really good. If you fell over, the law was nobody was allowed to pick you up. You had to get yourself up. So you get the occasional, like, turtle who'd be there maybe an hour. Nobody was allowed to pick him up. Things like that were very good. It was a very equalised place. Disablement cuts across barriers of class and creed quite effectively. But I should think 80% of the children at Chailey were what you would call working class. I think my dad was working class. He left school at 13 and was a bus driver.
My old man wore 3-piece whistles. He was never home for long. Drove a bus for London transport. He knew where he belonged. Number 18 down to Euston. Double-decker, move along. Double-decker, move along. My old man. Later on he drove a roller, chauffeuring for foreign men. Dropped his H's on occasion, said go blimey now and then.
He was a chauffeur till he died. And my mum was at university and was an educated woman. My mum got me to take the 11 plus. So I went on a grant from Essex County Council to a semi-privileged boarding school. It wasn't all boarders, there was about 800 day boys and about 150 boarders. The school I went to, the grammar school, I just hated it. Hated being a boarder. I could feel why I was a boarder at Chailey because, you know, you were getting treatment and you were getting a kind of a lifestyle that toughened you up and did you a lot of good. But didn't do me much good. I was fairly weak, and I was not in a wheelchair, but like a pushchair, going long distances when I went to the grammar school. And I hated it there. I read one of their old school magazines. I went to play at Oxford. Somebody come up and used to go. I said, yeah, see, I was a school magazine. I opened it up. We remember him when he was a happy little fellow falling about all over the place. Well, I was never happy there. I came out of there, out of Chailey, and went there, and people were making my bed for me and thing for about 3 weeks until they realised I could do it myself. And I just was like a fish out of water, you know.
Guess what? I wanna be straight. I wanna be straight. I'm sick and tired of taking drugs and staying up late. I wanna confirm. I wanna conform. I wanna be safe and I wanna be snug and I wanna be warm. I wanna be straight. I wanna be straight. I wanna create a place of my own in the welfare state. We're gonna be good. We're gonna be kind. It might be a wrench for think of the stench I'm leaving behind. I wanna be straight. I wanna be straight. Come out of the cold and do what I'm told and don't deviate. I wanna give, I wanna give, I wanna give my consent. I'm learning to hate all the things that were great when I used to be bent.
I knew that the place where somebody like me ought to be is like an art school where people don't mind about what or who you are so much as what you do with it. I knew it would be okay at art school because I'd read a book about Van Gogh.
My chance has only just arrived.
And I went and I was sweet. It was all right. Straight away, it was cool. I was at art school for 7 years. You know, I kept on twisting the government out of more money. So then I did a bit of teaching. That's all I've ever done. Teaching painting. Yeah.
What gave you the idea of being a singer?
Well, I don't really think of myself as a singer. I think of myself as a sort of like an actor, really. But I was doing painting. I weren't very good at it, really. I just got fed up with it. And I just wanted to go out and get on the stage and be flash. So that's what I did. I don't know how I got away with it so long, really. That was 10 years ago.
How old was you when you first started singing?
30. Quite an old chap, really, for being all that, you know. But I thought, well, what's there to lose, you know? If you're 22, they call you old in the rock and roll business. So I just thought, who cares? Can you sing? No, nor can I.
How did you get it involved, like in a group? And
I was teaching, and I've got some mates who are musicians, and they're all jazz musicians, which means they're like got open minds to me, right? It's because I can't sing in tune. I'll go, well, listen, lads, I can't sing in tune, but then you don't play in tune, so we'll all play together. And they went, yeah, sure, like that. So I started playing with a lot of jazz musicians, then some students, art students at Canterbury, all wanted to be the Rolling Stones, and with long hair and that. So we started like that, doing Chuck Berry songs. You know Chuck Berry? No, he's a bit before your time, maybe. So I was going up and down the motorways in a little van for 6 years. It was terrific, it was.
Yeah, and do you believe in God?
Do I believe in God?
Yeah.
I believe in good, and I think that is probably the same thing.
But do you believe in God in the heavens?
I used to. I don't anymore, but I probably will again soon.
Why not?
Because I think it's like here on Earth when you've got to get your nut together, basically. Typical, did you say? Who thinks they're tricky with rhythm? Anybody? Nobody? I will find something. So, on the cymbal, you're going to be number 3, right? I'll count it for you. 1, 2. 1, 2. Gotcha. 1, 2. Straight in. Louder. 1. 1. Go ahead. Louder. I can't hear ya. Louder. Faster.
I wrote Spasticus Autisticus, not to offend anybody. There's no way I can go up to a bloke who's got the same disabilities as me and offend them. I felt my job was to put the needle into the person who was disabled, who was restricted there. I'm half disabled and half not, not stopped particularly by my disablement. Not compared to somebody who can't speak or somebody who can't move. My compensatory activity may be doing rock and roll and being flash Harry. For somebody who's much, much more disabled, to me, they need much, much more distraction. But from within themselves, not from organisings or being told anything, but from being able to tell, being able to display their own humanity. And I don't have a manifesto about it, and I don't have a philosophy about it. I don't have a philosophy. It's almost as if it's not necessary, because it's too much just to keep cracking,
I'm Spasticus! I'm Spasticus!
I've got a song, it's called The Brutal Hiawatha. It goes, naked, swearing, blind aggression, learned at first when just a baby. Teach that fucking noisy baby, hit that kid! Now, if I made that record, go on, whack your kid, go on, do it again, crash. I've done a little bit of research, some friends of mine are social workers and the like. There are children in every town in this country put in spin dryers, like that's a common occurrence. If I made a record along those lines, made it very sparkly, very nice to listen to, very easy on the ear, with a message in it saying don't do it, but saying don't do it in such a way that everyone who heard that lyric felt sick. Would that stop it? Would that stop even one person doing it? I doubt it. Because it's not done in logic. It's not done with thinking. You don't get whacked on the head for a reason. Not ever. There's no reason to whack anybody, ever. There's no reason to have a gun in your hand, go like that to somebody. No, there's no reason. So how can I be reasonable?
Wrap yourself in silver paper. Put a sandbag on your head. Crawl inside your fallout shelter. Underneath your garden shed. Boil an egg. Have a cuddle. Cut your toenails, make the bed. By the time this record's finished, everybody will be dead. For those who do not wish to die, raise up your voices to the sky and sing away the missiles.
I want to write songs that I can get my feelings out on. And if I can get my feelings out, and I'll go out posing again. If I can't, I'll just carry on. I would much really rather be a vicar or something. I wanted to be a medical missionary when I was a kid, and I went in, gorse grows in rings. I don't know if you knew that, and it very often got a tunnel into the ring. We used to have these revival meetings in the middle of this ring. I was in there one, I was a vicar, naturally, and I had my flock in there. And this little brown dog come in. Like that, sniffing around. I know, like that. That sounds a bit ominous. And we all stood up as a kids with a double barrel shotgun pointing right, waiting for the rabbits. I thought, sod Jesus, man, I'm leaving that right out. After that, that's where I changed my tack. Thought I was an omen.
Wash your smalls, feed the cactus, telephone your Uncle Fred. By the time this record's finished, everybody will be dead. Stand along. Stand along. Stand along. Stand along.
Going like that is a waste of time. Going like that is picking your nose. That's cool.